This is Nigel Davies then, Saracens away. Nigel, after last weekend's result, has it been a tough week so far?
Mentally it's been very tough, but from a physical point of view and a focus, it's been very easy. Coming off such a poor performance as we have, from a coaching perspective and also a player perspective, it's been very easy to get in the right frame of mind, which we obviously weren't on last weekend.
Yeah, I suppose Saracens away does focus the mind rather, doesn't it? The reaction that you wanted, though, I suppose you've got to get it with the head as well as with the heart, haven't you?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, it's going to be a very physical battle. Ironically, of course, our worst defeat last year was Sale away, and we ended up playing Saracens home the week after. So there's an irony there somewhere. It's probably one of the best games we could have had. There's a huge physical challenge that awaits us. I know there's a lot of frustrated players in my squad who let themselves down as much as anybody else, but we've let our supporters down with completely under par performance last weekend, and we need a big sort of a big performance off the back of that.
And when you've got frustrated players like that, do you put them straight back into bat and say, well, go out and prove yourselves again, or is there the temptation to make changes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. We've made one or two changes, but in the main, it's up to the guys to redeem themselves, really, and put them back into bat, and there is a huge frustration there.
Obviously, looking for more front foot possession this weekend, because that was lacking last week. How difficult, though, is that to do that against Saracens, especially at their place?
Well, it's difficult against anybody if you don't get the detail right, and we proved that on Saturday against Sale. So we've just got to get the detail of that right. We've got to work as a unit, and there is a responsibility on certain elements of the team to perform in certain areas to make sure that we do get reasonable primary possession, so that we can actually control the game for longer periods.
You gave Saracens a real scare last year at Vicarage Road. How different, though, will going to Allianz Park for the first time be? Obviously, first time Gloucester have ever played a competitive match on an artificial surface.
Yeah, we don't really know is the answer. One of our themes is to adapt, so we'll look to do that, and we'll just see how the surface plays. We anticipate it might be wet, and I don't think it's probably the best surface to play on when it's wet in terms of continuity and holding on to the ball. So, we'll just have to adapt. I think the key thing for us is that there's so much for us to focus on within our own game. That will allow us really to bring clarity to what we need to do on the day.
And in terms of preparing to play on artificial, have you done a bit more training on one of the 3G surfaces here at Hartbury this week?
No, we haven't. A couple of reasons for that. One is that it doesn't actually perform like a 4G, and secondly is if we train too long on that type of surface, we pick up lots of niggly injuries. So we've been very mindful of that. So the key was really about just getting a focus on where we need to be this week. Regardless of the surface, we obviously have to take that into account, and we will, but there's a lot more for us to be focused on than that.
Tactically, how much do you have to change?
Well, I think there's some technical stuff that we have to get right in terms of the set piece, and then when we've got more ball, we can actually dictate for longer periods in the game, and that's key to it. It's not going to be a huge tactical game, I don't think. I think a lot of it's going to come around to who wants it the most, and it's something that Saracens pride themselves on in terms of dominating the opposition and being more physical than the opposition. So in those terms, it's going to be, that's the challenge.
Because there is that physical challenge against Saracens, are they in some ways a little bit easier to play against mentally because they spring perhaps fewer surprises? You know what to expect, you've just got to go out there and match it or beat it. Yeah,
possibly. They're looking to expand the game, and there's a lot more offloaded in the game, in fairness to them, and they've got the ability to hurt teams playing any game, I suppose, but they do primarily focus on that physicality and that impact. And yes, we know what to expect, we know what's coming. Most teams do, but in fairness to Saracens, they tend to get the upper hand. So, as I said earlier, it's a great challenge for us. It's exactly what we want. Probably the best fixture we could have had.
Injuries, James Hudson still likely to be a week too soon for him?
Yeah, still probably a week too soon, unfortunately, for him. But he's very close.
Dan George okay?
He popped a bit of a rib, so he's not going to be available for the next 3 weeks. So we've got Corey back, who's fit, and obviously Darren fit as well.
And of the long-termers, how are they progressing?
Anyone in particular?
Shane Monaghan, Johnny May.
Johnny May will hopefully have some game time in our away game against Sale on Monday, so he's just about ready to play. And Shane, he's a couple of months away.
I mean, that is pretty swift return for Johnny, isn't it? I suppose. What's gone into that rehab being so quick? Is it just not as bad as you first feared?
No, he dislocated his elbow, that's for sure. But because of the quick action of our doctor, who was with us, we were able to get that back in very quickly, and it had minimal damage on the structures around the displacement. So it's great. He's rehabbed very well. He's very professional in how he goes about his rehabilitation, and as a result of that, took part in a full contact training session today and looked very comfortable.
Excellent news. Everyone else okay in terms of those who were around last week?
Yes, I think physically, emotionally, everybody's a bit scarred and bruised, but we expect that, and we expect a reaction from that. And from that point of view, it's been a tough week. We've had to be quite clear in terms of how unacceptable that performance was on the weekend, and that's my responsibility. But I'm expecting my players to give me and our supporters a reaction on Sunday.
Fingers crossed you get it. Thank you. Good luck.